following program is intended for mature audiences.
What do you say we have a rock and roll party?
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
It's actually something I wanted to bring up, harkening back to our beginnings and our roots, but we never really talked about the bloodletting at ESPN.
I think the ESPN stuff is, as a aspiring up-and-coming journalist myself, ESPN, when I first started thinking about a career, it's like, ESPN is everything I want to be. ESPN is the pinnacle of the profession. All I want to do in my life is work for ESPN and sit behind the SportsCenter desk. I don't feel that way anymore because they're not the only, shop on the block.
No, not anymore.
And when you see, you get to this point, you've grown up, you've kind of understand how the business works, and then you see things like that happen. It's like, oh, and especially because ultimately, like, I would take any job that I could get, but I would love to be able to cover hockey. And I think one of the big things that came out of that is we already knew that ESPN didn't really care about hockey when it came to the broadcast sense, but they had always done really, really good work on their online portion. Their written stuff was great. And the fact that they let go of like 2/3 of the hockey department on one day, and now the only regularly employed hockey writers they have are ESPN insiders, so you have to pay to see their work now. They let go of Scott Burnside, they let go of this guy Joe McDonald, and they let go of Pierre LeBrun, and those were great hockey writers. And Burnside was the guy who had was kind of stationed in the USA Hockey operation when they were picking the Olympic team. That's where we got all the great stuff about Brian Burke,
right?
Dreaming, gold medals and situations, and all that stuff's gone now because they wanted to save a couple dollars here and there, and they're really, they're trying to tape over holes on a sinking ship. It
seems to me that ESPN. I mean, Zach, you said that I don't think it's a matter. I think like you no longer kind of being interested in the whole ESPN thing isn't so much a case of you growing up so much as it is that the ESPN that existed when you were a kid watching it is no longer really a thing anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Like it has been – they've damaged their brand so much to the point where Disney is considering – like Disney kind of wants to get rid of them.
Well, you look at ESPN from the days when they were great journalists and all that. Now, our podcast, where we're allowed to say whatever we want, we can cuss, we can swear, we can make shit up if we want to, and we seem measured and thoughtful by comparison to a lot of the stuff that's on the air with them these days. And not just our podcast, but a lot of podcasts that are nuttier than ours don't seem like a big deal when compared to the screaming and shouting shows that they have and all that. And I think what they really let you know what they think of hockey, and they also let you know what they think of Major League Baseball, because both of those sports got relegated to the way back burner, and it's all about the NBA and, of course, the mighty NFL now.
Yeah. But they're cutting the Baseball Tonight hours. Yeah. And they're outsourcing. ESPN.
Outsourcing.
Put all this money into that big, fancy studio they have. They are now outsourcing some of their daily programming hours to the MLB network.
Hey, now they got to save money to buy a new desk for the Sunday NFL show. Okay,
but yeah, they got rid of Baseball Tonight, which now I quit watching it when MLB Network came along. I didn't really pay much attention to Baseball Tonight anymore, but it was when I watched it, it was very, very good. But it's gone now. They do it once a week now on Sunday nights, and that's it. And the rest of the time, I guess, is going to be Intentional Talk with Kevin Millar and what's his name, Chris Rose. Yeah, and that's an MLB Network show that they're just going to plug in on ESPN. Well, I don't even get that. I mean, it's great for MLB Network because it gives them all that extra exposure they didn't have. But this is just, I never thought a year ago. I'd have never thought we'd be seriously talking about that. We might be seeing ESPN slowly circle on the drain here.
Well,
too, like the when I kind of voiced the opinion I just said, part of the thing that really ticked me off wasn't necessarily just losing hockey. Like, it's the fact that the people they let go, or at least the big names that we all saw, guys like the Burnsides and LeBrons, but also guys like Ed Werder. Like, yeah. They let go they didn't let go of Stephen A. Smith or Max Kellerman or anybody like that. They let go of the journalists, like the people that actually do real work for ESPN. Those are the ones they let go. And the thing that's stupid about all of it is, like I said, it's just putting tape over holes on a ship. It's like, that's not the problem. The problem is you spent way too much on all these live rights because that's, that ESPN needed to have everything. And so in turn, you have to raise your subscription base or your subscription price. And so people that are like, well, I don't really watch ESPN as it is anyway, they'd start dropping it. Or you can just get MLB Network or NHL Network or NFL Network or NBA TV if you even really want to.
Well, here's the thing with
you get all that stuff that you got with ESPN for less,
right?
And now ESPN's trying to find ways to make themselves look okay to their investors and say, hey, look, we're slashing all this money, but guess what? They're gonna have to do this again in like 6 months or even a year. Like,
well, they overpaid so much for the NFL package.
How much do they pay for one NFL game a week?
I don't know what it would come down to, like on a per game basis, but I know the rights.
$2 billion. I think it's $2 billion.
Not a game, but for a season. No, but the rights fee was in the, like $2 billion area.
Yeah.
That's insane. You're paying $2 billion a season for only 16 games.
Yeah,
insane.
And you're getting a bad schedule. Monday Night Football does not have the sway it used to have. But this is part of the bigger picture, though, too, with the NFL, with all the oversaturation. Monday Night Football is completely meaningless now. Mm-hmm. Because you've got Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, all the other stuff, the 24-hour day, 7 days a week, nonstop NFL machine has completely watered down the brand of Monday Night Football to the point where they're paying so much money for something that just doesn't matter anymore.
ESPN, the contract they have with the NFL for Monday Night Football, the contract began in 2006. And back in 2006, they agreed to pay $1.1 billion a year for the rights then. And then when it came to renew the deal through 2021, they're now paying $1.9 billion per year. NBC for Sunday night is paying $950 million.
That's what I don't get that.
And they have the better games.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if you go back and read that book that Jim Miller wrote, those guys have all the fun. He explains in great detail that ESPN screwed themselves so badly on the Monday Night Football package. It's their own fault. They've got no one to blame but themselves.
They could have had it all.
They could have had it all. They didn't take NBC seriously. And, I mean, I'm really oversimplifying it, but basically NBC got into this because somebody called them and said, hey, there's a Sunday Night Football package here if you guys want it. I mean, it was a little more complicated than that, but that's basically what it boiled down to. They weren't even in the running for Sunday Night Football. But ESPN thought, we're ESPN. We can lowball the NFL and it'll all be okay. Well, guess what? The NFL said, no, that's not going to work. And ESPN ended up overpaying. And they still haven't gotten a good schedule of games. I mean, even now, they're still. Monday Night Football. You're paying $2 billion a year, basically, for a Ravens Bengals game on Monday night. I mean, come on.
Well, the problem too, like they're improving a little bit, but because the NFL is spreading itself out, they can't like all the Thursday games used to be garbage, and they still are for the most part. But now that they're being broadcast on CBS and NBC, they have to make those a little bit better. They still need the good games for Sunday. They need the best game for Sunday night, and they need to have something decent for Monday. So they're running out they're just spreading. First off, the NFL so thin, but ESPN's getting a shaft here.
There aren't enough good teams to have that many marquee games.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. and the fact that ESPN is still buying into all this stuff, and they still paid all this money so that they could also get all the rights for the highlights and to bring NFL primetime back and, to have all these shows during the week. I mean, they cut Ed Werder, who's was there for 14 years doing NFL work.
Long time.
And right after the cuts, they announced they were going to get rid of that NFL Insider show. So that whole hour they had of nothing but NFL during the middle of the day to expand and one of the reasons they pay all this money to have all these NFL shows, they had to get rid of one of their NFL shows during these cuts. It's I don't know.
It's so ESPN. It's not something I grew up with TSN, which Americans who have spent time in Canada have always told me TSN is so much better than ESPN. And I never really understood that because from what I could see of ESPN, like they use the same graphics packages. I think like ESPN owned part of TSN or something. That's why they kind of did the co-branding thing. But recently I've watched some ESPN, and good God, I've seen this new version of SportsCenter they called the Six.
So bad.
What is? It is so far removed. My ideal mind's eye version of SportsCenter is Jay and Dan doing TSN Sports, and this is so far removed from that perfect expression.
Yeah, for those that haven't watched ESPN at all recently, the Six was spawned out of an original show that was called Numbers Never Lie, that was hosted by Michael Smith. Then Jamel Hill came in, and then they spun that out because they liked the way that they worked on that show. They spun it out to be his and hers, and it's like,
wow.
Michael Smith and Jamel Hill, they're both black, and that kind of plays into it, where ESPN's trying to have a kind of different voices and different views, and that's not a bad thing to have. I'm not saying not to have that.
But isn't his and hers just the black version of two people yell at each other?
It was kind of, and because that got decent ratings, they said, oh, well, we'll replace the SportsCenter that was basically the pregame show for the entire world of sports from, the 6 o'clock Eastern hour leading up to the 7 o'clock East Coast games. They said, well, we're going to put this in there. But it's not even SportsCenter. It's called, SC the 6 or SC6 or however they want to brand it. And it was supposed, instead of being SportsCenter and performing its function, it's now just another show talking about issues, and it's like that's what ESPN is all day, and that's what they want, though. That's what they want. They're trying to drive towards these personalities and these discussion topics.
But is it working?
The sports culture we have.
No, it's not.
I mean, I know
it's
from
not good ratings. It's not rating very well as far as I can tell.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's one thing if we don't like it and it doesn't work for us, okay, whatever. But if it's getting the ratings, then you of course understand why they're doing it. I can't think of anybody that ever tells me, hey, did you watch ESPN? Or no one watches it that I know. Of course, not everybody I know is older, so maybe they're all kind of like, we don't need this stuff. But I could see it if the ratings are working, but if the ratings aren't working, then I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're just flailing away in the dark, it sounds like.
When I want sports
no pun intended.
When I want sports discussion, I have all the podcasts I listen to.
Right.
I have, like that's where I get that. When I want highlights, well, if I want to see what happened in the NHL, turn on NHL Network. If I want to see what happened in baseball that night, I'll turn on MLB Network, or I just watch my local team, which is kind of the case with MLB ratings as a whole, as it is, that most people are just watching their local teams anyway.
Yep.
And then with the NFL, I don't need ESPN talking it up during the week. I just watch the games on Sunday, and I listen to the podcast I listen to, and I know more than enough about the NFL to do our own NFL show every week, right?
Well, I don't know about you, but when we're doing the football,
get outside of my football.
When we're doing the football show during football season, I get all of my information from NFL Network. I don't watch ESPN for any of it.
Yeah.
Like if I want to see the highlight shows and all that, I'm watching the NFL Network. And baseball, I'm ESPN. Why would a baseball fan watch ESPN when you've got an entire network dedicated to Major League Baseball?
Yeah.
And a show every night called Quick Pitch that is nothing but highlights from every game.
ESPN became so NBA focused over the last couple of years. And, it's pushed the NBA to be the second most popular sport in the league, in the country, which is fine. It's not, obviously, as anybody that listens to this show knows that we're just not big into the NBA. So that is one reason that it turns me off, is that, like, I turn stuff on and all they're talking about is, Russell Westbrook and what's going to happen here. And it's like, none of this is all that interesting to somebody that doesn't care. I don't find most of these discussions interesting at all about anything.
Just a quick update on ratings for ESPN's The Six, which I don't understand why they called it that.
Well,
I guess it's on at
6 o'clock Sports Center. The Six.
Just call it Sports Center. But okay.
but it's different.
You old-fashioned fogey, what's the matter with you?
Yeah, like it's got an edge though, so it's the.
Does
Six.
it? I've seen a couple episodes of it. Is it an edge? Does it have an edge? Because
that's what they want you to think. And that's what they
okay. I guess maybe I don't understand what an edge is anymore. I'll have to ask. I'll have to ask a teenager about this.
Well, you are over 16, Mike, so you're probably completely out in the woods, just like everybody else now.
But anyway, ratings. So the third week after the changeover to the Six, it drew 568,000 viewers. That is a drop from 574,000 viewers who tuned into SportsCenter at the same time 1 year previous. So it is trending downward.
That's not good, especially when you've got the carriage that ESPN has on cable and on DirecTV and on Dish, where you are in, I don't even know, untold millions of households. Every one of your shows should be hitting at least 1 million viewers. I mean, unless you're talking like the really obscure stuff, but your primetime, top of the lineup shows should be doing way better than that. And
interestingly enough, PTI is down 16% from last year.
Yeah, ratings are down across the board when it comes to ESPN, just because they're losing subscribers because of the upping of the fees and such.
Right.
So it's So some of that plays into all that too, but I don't know anybody that watches this. Like, and again, maybe it's just not directed towards me or to the group of people I hang out with, but I don't know. And really, even the people that I hang out with, they're huge NBA fans. Most of my friends are huge basketball fans. They don't watch sports during the day. They're not all consuming of sports like I am or like you guys are, and it's just. There's no reason to. ESPN has been outflanked by all these networks that cater specifically to those that want it. And really, when it comes to basketball, if you want some good basketball TV, you're probably just going to watch the TNT games during the week, right?
Yeah.
And listen to Inside the NBA and Charles Barkley and all that.
Well, and if you want highlights, if you want highlights right now, go to YouTube, type in NBA. You're going to go straight to the NBA channel, and there they all are.
Yeah,
it's like, just
every dunk is instantly turned into a GIF on Twitter.
Yeah.
Before the ball's even through the netting, it's already a GIF on Twitter. Like,
I think that to me, the bigger picture here is that a year or two ago we were talking about some chinks in the NFL armor, but ESPN seemed like it was just basically this behemoth that couldn't be stopped, and now here we are, a year or two later. And it's looking bad. I mean,
Disney will sell this off if they get an offer.
I'm sure they would. And it's just a matter of the rights fees are ridiculously high, and something's gonna have to be done about that, regardless of whether ESPN's involved or not. It's just gotten to the point where it's going to be so expensive that even the CBSs and the NBCs and the ABCs aren't going to be able to carry this stuff anymore because it's just too much money. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, but now they're going to have to get streaming involved in it, which I guess they are. I've heard that Twitter is going to carry some games, and I think Facebook, et cetera. But you've got to get the streaming into the mix here, and you've got to find a way to make that work because your current model's not working. I mean, you still got the rights to the games. You're probably still doing well in the ratings, but you can't afford to do anything else. And ESPN's already got the tag of being all about the NFL all the time. And that's what it's going to have to be because that's the only thing that seems to work for them. And, we're losing the baseball programming, losing the hockey. Not like those two were ever at the top of their list anyway, but let's be honest. In July, there ain't a whole hell of a lot on that you're going to be able to carry if you lose the baseball package. What are you going to play? There's no basketball. Right. There's no NFL.
But I think that's what they're so focused in on the rights and stuff to having these games. And that's why. because they need something to fill the programming hours. Like if they didn't have baseball, even if they didn't over the winter and the spring, if they didn't have the NBA package, they don't have hockey anymore. You know, I don't think that they would go back and get hockey all of a sudden. But if there was no NBA, what would they have on TV every night? Like they have the college basketball games, but it's like,
yeah, but who watches those?
Right. And so what they're doubling down on is the NFL, is college football, and the NBA. And because those are the things that fill up the time. And then MLB, the only reason they have those rights is to fill the hours when they need to. That's it. It's not there to get them ratings. It's so they have something on TV that they don't necessarily have to pay talent for and a production crew for, and it's just these are the games. And that's also why they bring in the MLB network stuff, because that's stuff they just have to license out and it fills time.
In this day and age, there really is no good reason to have a national game unless you're going to. The only way it's going to work, and I don't know that 20 years ago this might have worked, it won't today, but you have to make it so that when your game is on, no other games can be showed anywhere. That's it. But 25 years ago that works. Today it doesn't, because baseball's become so regionalized that, okay, fine, I can't watch on Wednesday night, I won't watch on Wednesday night unless my team's on. I mean, I would, but I think they should bring back the NHL, because I think the NHL would be a nice little moneymaker for them right now. They could get it for next to nothing, and I think more people would watch it on ESPN than do on NBC.
They put so much effort into the NBA, though. Like I don't know when you would air NHL games.
Man, you put it on ESPN2 and just go to town. That make it the NHL. You know, that's their network.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the NHL used to live. NHL Tonight, man. That was where I lived.
With the giant 2 carved into the static TV screen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, instead of, eventually, NHL's already gone. Baseball's probably, I don't know if they'll take baseball out entirely, but they're going to not want to pay as much for it. And
I can't see the fact that ESPN wants nothing to do with baseball absolutely floors me, because baseball, I don't know, baseball just is such an institution of a sport. And despite what, a lot of people are saying, it's not dying by any stretch of the imagination.
It's set attendance and revenue records like 5 years in a row now. That it's dying is just bullshit.
Yeah, the sport's healthy. It's popular. It is a tradition to a lot of people. I don't know. It's weird. But the NHL, I think the NHL would be a good fit for them if they could, find it in themselves to look past the NBA for a moment. The problem is, I think that does the NHL necessarily want to go there? Because the NHL was on ESPN, and it didn't go so great for them.
Well, they're not going to get the full attention like it gets with NBC. That's for certain.
But yeah, and I think it's going to come down to, NBC being like, well, we can stay with NBC and we can be like the centerpiece of their network, or we can go to ESPN where we're going to play third fiddle at best. But and I think what you guys have been saying about how ESPN's kind of been made obsolete by the fact that each of these leagues has their own specialty network that you can just stream on any device you have. I think that all of that kind of plays into the fact that it's not just, well, baseball has become regionalized, but I think everything has become very specialized. And it's like, I think the NHL, or at least, if they weren't smart, and so I have very hard time believing they've actually considered this, because God damn it, we should talk about the World Cup of Hockey later, because that
also ties into ESPN because they're the ones who broadcast that too. So, but
the point being that I think that I think it would be smart of them to realize that hockey will never be like the NFL, for example, and it probably will never be the NBA.
Not anymore. No.
And so, being on a channel of a smaller reach than NBC isn't the death knell that it probably would have been 20 years ago, because now, sure, you're in less homes, but probably most people in the United States, at least, who want to watch NHL hockey probably are going to make the effort to see it on NBC's networks. Whereas, sure, you're going to get more eyes on you on ESPN, but that increase in viewership isn't going to translate into more people watching. So you might as well, if you're going to get the same viewership anyway, you might as well be on the network that makes you a priority.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And really the only complaint I'd have about the NHL now is that they locked themselves into NBC instead of doing what the NBA did, or even MLB's done, where they have a second network that also carries some of the games on the days when the other network isn't.
See, I think that if you could get ESPN to pick up even just one hockey game a week, it would be a good money maker for them, and it wouldn't hurt the NHL one bit. But you could get a small rights package to the NHL, and again, I'm just talking about it in terms of pure money. You need to get sports that aren't going to cost you much, so you can bring back revenue on. And right now they don't have that. I don't know how in the world they're making money on the ad time that they're selling on the NFL, because I just can't see where they're pulling in enough revenue to cover a $1.9 billion a year rights fee. I don't. How are they doing it? Where's the money coming from?
They
just laid off
subscriber fees.
But they're losing subscribers, and they just laid off over 100 employees. They do not have a positive cash flow situation.
Right. It's just, I just never thought I'd see the day, and all of a sudden it happened, and it happened so quickly, and I went, wow, I'm seeing the day, and it came kind of out of the blue.
I'm gonna use an obscure historical reference, but I'm gonna go for it because I think it's relevant. There's a small country in northern Italy called San Monaco. The entire country is one mountain. It is its own independent country. Anyway, when Napoleon invaded Italy, he offered San Monaco large tracts of land, and San Monaco said no, because they reasoned that the smaller the country, that if their country remained small, no one was going to bother with them, nobody was going to harass them. They had the best chance to survive in an ever-evolving world. Whereas if they grew large and got all of this land, then everyone would be looking to take them down. That's what we've reached here. We've reached the point where being a niche league on a smaller network has its advantages. And if you're someone like ESPN, you're no longer the winning business model. ESPN is old, obsolete, and they don't seem to have any idea of how to rectify the situation. They just keep doubling down on the same bullshit that got them into this problem.
I'm surprised to find out that, and maybe I heard this wrong, but is it true that ESPN costs roughly about $10, like of your cable bill every month? $10 of it's ESPN.
I think it's like 8, 9, or 10, something like that.
Good Lord!
It might have gone up. Maybe it is 9, 10. I don't know.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't see. But that's the thing. Because of the way it's set up with the cable companies and the satellite companies, you don't get the choice. You can say, okay, I don't want ESPN, but you're going to lose everything else with it. You're going to lose the regional networks because they make it part of these tier packages where this is the sports tier where you get ESPN and Fox and the MLB network and NFL, et cetera, et cetera. You can't go, I don't want ESPN because I want to save that $9 a month. Then you got to lose all the other ones, which is bullshit. But now they're talking they're going to have a la carte programming on the cable and on the satellite networks. That's going to kill them even more. Because I'll tell you right now, I won't pay $10 a month for it. There's no way. I don't watch it. I watch it for college. I'll take that back. I love ESPN during college football season because, my God, it's just heaven if you like college football. They have everybody.
That's why they paid all those rights for all those conferences and stuff, too.
Yeah.
So that they could own Saturdays.
And, I mean, it's the greatest for college football.
And the whole thing, yeah.
I mean, it's just, you go like Saturday at noon, and it just goes all the way till 3 o'clock in the morning. It's awesome. But I don't know. It was just interesting to me that we didn't talk about it, and I just thought that it's going to have a huge impact. I don't know how it's going to play out, but there's a lot going on.
I don't think ESPN is going to ever go away necessarily. I think it's still too much of a marquee brand that even if Disney strips it down to nothing and sells off basic assets, then it will survive in maybe a smaller and probably healthier forms. Like someone else will pick it up and try to do something with it.
What would you guys think? Let me just run this past you. Let's say, okay, we're going to dump the Screaming A. Smith shows. We're going to dump all that nonsense. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to, like, in season, we'll have like their version of Inside the NBA or whatever. Their version of, a little talk show, but not much. And the rest of the time we're going to spend showing replays of games we've already aired. And that's it. No more trying to make a 24-hour network out of it. We're going to go with basically their old model for like ESPN 2, where when they first started, it was a couple shows here and there. And then the Northwestern Illinois game from Saturday that would play at 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon or whatever. I could see that happening. That would save their asses. It would save them a lot of money.
I don't know if they'd ever. I think they can't go back to that, though. Like,
well, it would look really bad if they did, yeah.
Right. That's part of the thing, is that they've gotten to such a point that they can't go backwards. The toothpaste is out of the tube, you know?
Yeah.
That this is what they are.
Maybe you can't go backwards, but they need to do something. They need to fundamentally alter what they are, and I think it does involve simplifying what they are.
Do what you're good at. Just do what you're good at.
But the thing is, the thing they're good at now is the Stephen A. Smith shows.
Yeah, well, I don't think it takes anything it doesn't take anything to be good at that. That's not what I'm talking about. I think their college football coverage is the best. Period.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like their baseball coverage a lot.
They don't really have competition when it comes to college football. Like, yeah, there's games on Fox, and yeah, there's CBS that does the SEC. But when it comes to like studio programming, ESPN still owns college football. Like, Fox's college stuff is
it's not good,
not great. CBS is okay, but it because it's CBS and it's the Tiffany Network, it's just so blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's no edge at all to it. It's just, well, there are a couple guys talking about the game, and isn't this fun? We like football. It's like, okay, great.
I'm a fan of an AFC team, and even when it comes to pro football, I always sort of rank CBS's NFL coverage as kind of near the bottom rung.
The funny thing about CBS, and I don't know if it's just because broadcasting has changed so much since, but it seemed to me that they were a lot better back in the days when they had the NFC package. Now, it might just be that things weren't like they are now, and they seemed better than they really were. But once they went to the AFC, it was like, this doesn't feel right, and it never has ever since. I don't know.
Oh, see, to me, CBS seems like the natural home of the AFC.
To me, it will always be NBC to me. NBC is where the AFC should be. But that's just a generational thing, I guess.
But CBS, their pregame stuff. Like, I will say this for ESPN, TSN would just air the ESPN feed of like the Sunday NFL countdown shows, and to this day I make fun of a lot of the stupid bull crap that show does, but I still watch it. Like, it's still kind of my preferred. It's my preferred show to watch on Sunday mornings during football season.
Mine too, I have to admit. I
even if the desk has gotten even more ridiculous.
It's not a desk anymore. It's a section of bleachers now.
When it comes to NFL pregame shows, I watch Fox. I like Fox a lot.
Fox is fun.
I like Fox too, but
Fox is fun.
ESPN comes. Well, it used to be at 11. Now it's probably coming on at 6 in the morning. But which is, I think, part of the bigger problem is that too much of anything. And we've been down the NFL road a million times, and maybe ESPN is the beginning of the end for this oversaturation of the NFL. Who knows? I hope so, because I would love to see the NFL take a couple steps back and kind of make your product a little more, I don't know.
I keep saying this. Like, if you go back, say, 10 years to where the NFL was 10 years ago, if they had, like, this might seem heretical to people who think that you always kind of need to grow and grow and grow, but the NFL was so big 10 years ago, that if they had said, all right, we're not going to expand the schedule, we're not going to try to put games in London, if basically they just said 10 years ago, this is where we're going to stay, we're going to maintain this, I think they'd be perfectly fine today.
And just real quick, and then we can move on if you guys want to, but do you think anyone, and I mean literally anyone, would get upset if the NFL came out and said, you know what, we're going to back it off a little bit. We're going to drop the Thursday night games and we're going to not be in your face so much. Would anybody care? I would cheer. I would be like, thank you, God, for doing this. I don't know.
Yeah, they're overextending themselves. Like, I think we've talked about it before. We're like, all these games, partially because they're not great games. In the NFL, it always felt like every Sunday mattered. You need to lock down, and you were going to watch Sunday. And then even Monday, it's like, oh, Monday Night Football. This is an extra special treat. We get one more game on Monday.
Yeah.
After we went back to work. It's a long, hard day. We get an extra day of football. And it's
good
like,
football usually too.
That's like, well, there's a Thursday game, but that's kind of a shitty game, isn't it? Okay, well, there's a couple games in the morning. The afternoon slate's really bad. Oh, it's Sunday night though. That's really good. Monday too, really. There's a game at like 6 a.m. in London.
The best thing about it, I mean, back when I was at the peak of my NFL fandom, was that it was the anticipation of the weekend. The 6 days between the Sunday or the Monday game to when you finally got there again. I mean, it's not to say that they didn't cover it. No one talked about it. It was still talked about on ESPN and stuff, but there was just that time period in between games where it just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, we talked about it a bunch of times before. You've got 2 days in between games now, from Monday to Thursday. Then you got Thursday to Sunday. That's it. There is no time to get geared up.
I remember I used to be so kind of upset, like, why is the NFL season so short? The off season is so long. It's, it's 7 months until we get to watch games again. Now it's like, well, it's not the case anymore. It's practically always there.
Yeah, now it's like, why won't it go away just for a couple weeks? Just go away for a couple weeks.
We've ragged on these Senators a lot. They're here to play, man.
Hey, I'm rooting for them, man. I'm serious. I am all about the Sens.
I still don't know how or why, but they're here. They're giving it their best shot.
Okay, I'll ask this because I literally know nothing about this team. Is it possible? Okay, first off, are they a young team?
They have some young players, but they also have a lot of old guys. Like Craig Anderson's old, Eric Carlson's older, Dean Phaneuf older, Bobby Ryan. Kyle Turris isn't young anymore either. Okay,
so it's not a matter of they weren't so hot and they were young and they kind of put it together towards the end of the season and that's why they're good all of a sudden?
No.
Okay, that's the only theory I had. I couldn't tell you then. Don't know.
Oh, just trap.
Hey, your Ducks, though, I tell you, man, they've shown me again with Game 2.
Well, first, Greg, let's just bask in it and remind everybody the Ducks won Game 7.
Yes, they did. By God, Mike and I were texting during that game.
Those magnificent bastards, and oh my God, like that game. The first goal that went in where Shea Theodore brought it out from behind his net in front of his own net, the thing you're never supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And then it went into our net, and I said, oh, fuck. Here we go. All right. We're just going to do this again, huh? And then they just stuck with it. They were the better team for the majority of the game. They took it to Edmonton. They scored the goals. And really, the Oilers didn't really show up, I didn't think. And the Ducks did what they had to do. They got it done. They played really hard. They limited Edmonton's rush chances. They controlled the puck. It was wonderful to see.
Well, we were Mike and I were talking a little during that game, and his first text was, "Well," and I said, "Uh-oh, what happened? 1-0 Oilers." And that was, we were like,
and then you asked me like how far into the game was
right?
It?
How far?
It was like 3.5 minutes, not even 5 minutes.
And we were like, well, that's that then.
Trust me, we all thought it. After the first period, we all kind of went into the hallways and we're just like, fucking hell.
It was kind of like, okay, well, that's that. We talked about the uniforms a little bit. Went on to talk about how we liked Edmonton's orange jerseys more than we thought we would. So that's how much faith we had in your boys, Zach.
Trust me, I agreed with you. And like maybe 5 minutes after that goal, it's like we couldn't generate anything. And someone's like, we're going to become the fucking Sharks, aren't we? And it's just like, I don't know.
You have a Stanley Cup. You have a Stanley Cup. You will always be more than the Sharks, yes, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, that is true. True. But no, they again, like they did against Edmonton in the prior series, that they got down yesterday and they came back, and that's they've shown a resilience that I didn't see in them the past few years. If that makes sense.
No, I hate using these kind of things to describe the team because it's kind of these nebulous concepts. Yeah, it's these nebulous concepts that you can't really put a number behind and like say, well, this is why they're doing it. This is just a team with a lot of character. They stick with the game plan. They don't really get down on themselves. They just kind of keep going at it, and they break through. And it happened even in the first game. Like, the Ducks lost the first game to Nashville in overtime. But the first 10, 15 minutes of that game, Nashville just came out of the gates and was all over the Ducks. And out of the blue, Jakob Silfverberg just kind of throws a puck at the net, whizzes it by Pekkarinne, and hey, it's 1-0. And it's like, okay. And then they got their shit together, and they played really well. It was a tight game, could have gone either way, and it just so happened that Nashville got the bounce it needed in OT to win it. But you say, okay, they still played really well. You take it to the next game. They go, same kind of shit happens. They come right at them. It's like, oh, God damn it, really? But to the Ducks' credit again, they stuck with it. And the game plan clicked in. They started getting they were dumping the pucks in, and they were retrieving them, and they were putting a lot of pressure and hitting the Nashville defense, and just beating Pekkarinne on all these shots. Almost, except for one goal, all the goals the Ducks have scored on Pekkarinne have been just clean shots, which is very encouraging to me. I think the biggest thing I take away. But I
think if I were you, I'd be very happy with that. I think we talked about it before the Nashville St. Louis series, and I think we all picked St. Louis, saying that Rinne's had a very pedestrian year and he couldn't keep up that pace that he was setting against Chicago. And I think we were right. I think we just might have been a series off.
Yeah, I mean, he through 2 series he had like a .950 save percentage.
Ooh,
and through 2 games he has an .864.
Like,
well, the 950 is unsustainable, but you can't have it drop to 854 either.
No,
but I think the fact that that it has dropped, I don't think it's going to stay at 854 either, because he is a talented goalie at the end of the day. But
you know what,
I think it's enough proof. I think it's enough proof that we were right, that Pekkarinne is not this unstoppable juggernaut that he seemed to be.
The thing that cracks me up about him is that we if people that aren't hockey fans would think his last name is Pekkarinne, because we never refer other, we'll talk about like Lundqvist or Bobrovsky. I guess we do it with Marc-Andre Fleury too. It's not but for like most people, it's like, oh, I wonder what's Pekkarinne's first name? Well, Pekka. It's just funny to me. We always call him by both his names all the time.
There's a few guys, that are always like that. And,
his last name is too short to just be referred to it as that.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, we were right. He wasn't going to be a Stonewall for the entire playoffs.
Right.
And a 950 save percentage, while great, you can't sustain that. That's just ridiculous. Maybe you can for a playoff. I don't know. I've never seen it.
And like I said, that's the thing that gives me the most, or I think is the biggest takeaway, is that the Ducks know Pekkarinne is human. He can be scored on. He's not like this impenetrable wall, and oh my God, how are we ever going to put pucks? They scored 4 on him in the last game. They're fine.
Yes, they scored 4 goals on Bob Pekkarinne.
Yes. And
Lester Pekkarinne.
Fine. I'm still encouraged.
No,
especially going down 0-2 to Nashville would have been terrible. So winning the game is extremely important.
Well, you don't want to pull a Chicago and suddenly you're down 2-0 going back to Nashville.
Olaf Pekkarinne. I like that one, Olaf. Olaf Pekkarinne. Anyway, yeah, I think the Ducks, again, like they did against Edmonton, twice really, where they withstood a comeback and then came back on their own. And then in this game again, that they just have a resilience that I have not seen in the past few years with them in the playoffs, and I like what I see.
Yeah, they're solid. I like pretty much everything about them right now. There's a couple things that I would like to fix. Maybe playing the first 10 minutes of games would be a nice start.
Yeah, where's the fun in that?
Maybe if you're up 3 games to 2, you guys could think about ending it in Game 6.
No, Mike, seriously? Come on.
It's something that I've considered telling the team, but they don't like to listen.
I mean, let's not get carried away here.
Yeah, let's first. If we could get to 3-2, I'd be ecstatic. But then I'd be sitting there like, we're going to lose this fucking Game 6.
Is anybody surprised that Ottawa won the first game against the Penguins? I am.
I am.
Yeah,
I am. On paper, I am. But after the thing that one of the reasons why I wasn't surprised that the Ducks kind of came out flat in Game 1 was they played Game 7 on Wednesday. Game 1 comes around, and it's like, we just played 2 days ago. we're already on to the next thing. Like, okay. And I think maybe the Penguins were still just trying to get their bearings about a team that the Penguins don't give a damn about the Ottawa Senators. They have no reason to get up or get angry that the Senators are coming to town. We got to take it to. I
think most people are kind of like the Ottawa Senators. There's a team in Ottawa,
right?
Yeah, that's the general feeling.
Hey, now.
But while we're talking about this,
Ottawa,
the Capitals, here we are again.
Right. That's the big thing.
Here we are again.
Here's the thing too, because I was listening back to last week's show, kind of leading up to Game 7, of course, and you, Greg, had said like, "Oh, the Blues started the here we go again." Like, what happens if the Capitals lose? And then the Blues lost, the Capitals lost, then the Ducks got scored on early, and that was your statement, Greg, was what came right into my head. Well, it started the here we go again. I'm like, oh God, yeah. It's all happening. We got to fall in line, right? And then they didn't. But Jesus, man, the Capitals.
I mean, what do you do? You've got a really good hockey team. I mean, everybody says blow it up, but
you have to blow it up. You have to blow it up.
Is it the Keith Olbermann thing where it's just like, look, it's never going to happen, so forget it?
The core has reached this core, for whatever reason, lacks what it takes to get over the hump, and you're never going to get past that hump. The current crop of players, and everyone's saying, "Oh, Ovechkin's in his prime. You can't rebuild when he's in his prime." Ovechkin's at the tail end of his prime.
How old is he?
I mean, late 30s.
Let me pull it up.
That's not his prime. That's not even. No, that's not his prime.
He is 31.
Oh, he's 31.
Okay, right. Well, that's closer, but
he looks older because he's graying a bit.
And, but he looks older because of the past couple of years of the playoffs.
Yeah, probably, huh? I would say that his prime. I mean, I don't know exactly what the hockey player's prime is, but I got to think that the end of his prime is closer than the beginning of it is. Meaning that he's closer to being towards the end of it than he is to like right in the middle of it, where you go, okay, we can build around this guy. I don't know. To me, but God. Part of me says, okay, they've got to get it right one of these times. San Jose finally did it. They made the finals. They finally got over the hump. St. Louis did it last year against Chicago. Eventually, they're going to get it right. But then you go, Jesus, I mean, how many chances do you give these guys? Because it's just, I don't know.
No, that's the thing is we've had the same conversation with San Jose. We've had this conversation with the Sharks or with the Capitals before. Mm-hmm. We people had the same discussions with the Oakland A's back in the day. It's just like,
yeah,
what do you do? The team is really good. You don't win the President's Trophy by being a bad team, and especially as consistently being at the top of the league as they have been. You don't do it by accident or by a fluke. It's a very, very good team they got, and they've tried everything else too. It's like, well, maybe they need a better goalie. Well, they got one in Braden Holtby. He's a Vezina caliber goaltender. Well, we need just a better coach. Well, they've tried a couple, and now they have Barry Trotz, who by most people's accounts is still a pretty damn good coach. And
that's my question.
They need guys like TJ Oshie. They need new defensemen. They've literally. It's not like this is the same team for the past 10 years. They've changed it up, and it just doesn't work.
That's what I was going to say. I look at him and I go, I don't know. What
you blow it up and start over.
Yeah, because it's not like I watched a lot of their games in the playoffs this year, and you look at him and I go, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know as much about it as you guys do, but I'm looking at it going, I don't see what they're missing, what they don't have that they need. Like with Columbus, you can clearly tell that the defensemen, while young, weren't experienced. That's where they need help, right? And they could use a little more scoring. You can look at a team and go, this is what I look at the Caps and I go, I don't know. What do they need?
Let me ask you this, Greg. What do the Minnesota Wild need?
Well, they need a little more offense, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
probably.
The Wild need a lot more, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're solid. I think they're a good team. They play a good, I don't know what you would call their philosophy or whatever, but they do what they do well, but they don't have enough firepower to make it to get to the finals. They just don't have the guns to do it.
And specifically with the Capitals, like you look back at the series, they were down what, 3-1 when they started winning. So you're down 3-1, you literally have nothing else to lose. So you play a little bit looser and you just throw everything you can and say, the hell with it. and that's when the Caps were playing their best, when they just said, screw it, we got to do whatever we can, and they started doing whatever they could until they get to Game 7, where it's like, okay, we're both 3-3 now, we can't lose, we have to play super tight and clutch our sticks, and their collective sphincters kind of tighten up, and it's just that's what happens to these guys. When it didn't matter, they could play free and loose and just charge the Penguins and do everything they had to do.
Well, it's just like with your Ducks when Edmonton scored first in Game 7. I mean, there was a certain element of like, oh my God, here we go again. Right. And you've got to be able to get past that. And maybe the Ducks figured it out, and the Caps still haven't. Like they can't get to Game 7 without going, okay. I don't even remember who scored first in that game.
And the reason why. What do you mean who scored first?
Did the Caps go down early? I mean, what? I don't remember.
They were down. They lost 2-0. They didn't score.
Okay.
I think it was 0-0 after the first period, and then the Penguins scored. But it was a close game for the majority of it. It was 2-0 ultimately, but it was 1-0 for the majority of it. The Capitals were in the game. They just couldn't score.
That's right. I remember now.
And it's not like Marc-Andre Fleury had this amazing performance.
And while we're at it, I mean, come on, fuck me, really? Marc-Andre Fleury is okay.
Has had a career renaissance.
Yeah. No, he's going to look great in Vegas slate gray.
My point is, though, that this team, they don't have that mental toughness, and that goes with the fact that they just can't get over that hump. It's just not there. This core just isn't there. And like Zach said, this isn't a team that has remained unchanged. They've done everything necessary that you could expect them to do. And it just hasn't happened because you can add all the pieces you want, but the player core has remained more or less the same. I mean, it's still Ovechkin, Backstrom, and a few other key players, but it's just not happening. And to go down to the Penguins of all teams, the Penguins.
Yeah. I don't
know.
I don't, because the team is so good, I don't think you can just blow it up. And the thing is, too, they're going to have a lot of free agents, I guess. So they're going to have to fix some spots anyway. Maybe you try what the Sharks did before they broke through. And is Alex Ovechkin captain material? Like, he's your best player. But would they think about taking the C away from Ovechkin? Maybe. I don't know.
That's a good question.
I legitimately, I don't know what to do with this team. Like the Sharks, I could say, well, it's Thornton and Marlowe's fault. Take them out of leadership positions, give it to Joe Pavelski and Logan Scher and whatever. These guys with the Capitals, I just don't know what to do. I really don't have a good solution.
Well, they were the ones that traded for Shattenkirk from St. Louis too, right? The Caps. So I don't know.
But you look at the players whose contracts need to be renegotiated on the Capitals or who are just unrestricted free agents at the end of the season. This team is going to look radically different next year one way or the other. So you might as well get a head start on what you're eventually going to have to do anyway, and that is rebuild.
Yeah, but
what do you want to do? Do you want to get rid of Ovechkin, or do you keep Ovechkin?
I don't know. What could you get for him? That would be my question.
A lot.
If you could get a lot for him, I mean, what the hell? Here's the thing. The first point I wanted to make is you've got a team that won the President's Trophy this year. You can't blow it up. Your fan base is going to lose their collective shit if you do that. You can make some tweaks here and there, but you can't just go, we're wiping it clean. But
they've been making tweaks for so long, and it hasn't mattered.
Well, that's what I was going to say. But you can also, now you've got an argument where if you wanted to trade Ovechkin and get a shitload in return, I think you could sell that at this point. Because you say, look, we haven't done anything with the guy, and we can really load up. I don't know what they would get for him. I got to imagine it'd be a pretty good haul, and maybe that's the difference. I don't know.
I mean, we are seriously getting to the point where we have to consider this as a likely possibility. Alexander Ovechkin, if he ever does win the Stanley Cup, will not do it as a Washington Capital.
I don't know if he'll ever leave Washington, though, because the owner, Ted Leonsis, treats him like a son. He cares too much about Ovechkin to just let him go or to trade him. So, I don't know.
Who was the guy that owned the Oilers? Peter Pocklington? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Traded Gretzky. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
they did not have as good a relationship.
No, but
for money.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But my point being is that no one's untouchable. But I mean, to me, and again, though, but it's easy for me to say because A, I don't own the team. B, I'm not a Capitals fan, so I don't care. But I would take a serious look at what I could get in return for the guy, because you're not doing it with him. And I mean, what's he score a year? What's what were his stats this year?
He actually had a little bit of a down year this year, but he's still always good for 30 goals and whatever.
I'm just saying, you could go out, you might be able to get. Two guys that'll make up those 30 goals and God knows what else. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall because I really don't know what to do for him. Like Mike brought up the Wild. I can look at the Wild and go, okay, even I don't know that much about hockey, but I can tell these guys don't have enough scoring to get past like a Chicago, or not necessarily this year, but they're not going to get. They don't have enough to get all the way. They're lacking in things. I can look at Columbus and go, they're lacking in things. But the Caps look at it and go, I don't know what they need.
Ovechkin scored 33 goals, 36 assists for a total of a nice total of 69 points.
That's pretty good. I just want to throw this into real quick while we're in just a pause here. I'm watching this Game 7 between the Washington Bullet Wizards and the Celtics. How do people sit through this shit? I'm serious. I mean, it's like a bad high school game. They're like throwing shit up the side of the backboard and
does it matter which shitty basketball team is going to get fed to the Cavs?
Well, that's what I'm looking at this going, neither one of you guys have a chance in hell. I want to see the Washington Bullet Wizards win it, though. I think that would be cool.
The Bullet Wizards.
But anyway, yeah, back to the hockey. So with the Caps, I don't know what you do, but they're going to...
No, I don't. That's the thing. I don't know what to do either, but they've done so much that it's just not fixable. Like, it can't be fixable in its current form.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we will see.
You're too good of a team. Like Braden Holtby is an all-world goaltender. Ovechkin's an elite scorer. Backstrom's a great player. The defenders they have, Carlson and Alsner, those are pretty good defensemen. Like I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, and here's the thing too, is like, as I kind of thought about the Ducks and the fact that we had lost 4 Game 7s in a row, we were about to lose 5, so I thought, and then just thinking about what had happened to the Capitals fans, like how bad I felt with just 4 or 5 years of this nonsense. I couldn't imagine this being the last decade of your franchise, is just this perpetual ineptitude to do anything. To get, you can't even make it to the conference final. It's not even that they're not winning cups. They're not even playing for cups. They're not even playing for conference championships.
Yeah, I think it would be easier to swallow if they'd gone to the finals a couple times and lost. Even you go, well, at least they got there. But they can't. They can't even punch that ticket. I don't know.
And that was even before this format where it's like, okay, they're going to be locked into playing the Penguins all the time. It's like they lost to Yaroslav Halak and the Canadiens. They lost to the Rangers so many damn times.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't they lose to the Islanders once too? They beat the Islanders. I don't remember. They've lost to so many different teams besides just the Penguins that it's like.
Though the Penguins are now 9-1 against them in the playoffs. So
yeah,
that's reaching Canadians making the Bruins their bitch levels.
Yeah. Oh man, that was. I don't remember what the numbers were, but Jesus, that was bad.
It was something
they beat them 25 consecutive postseasons?
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a embarrassing number.
It was like if the Bruins had to play the Canadians in the playoffs, they should have just packed their bags and went home and said, "Fuck it, we're not even going to bother."
I remember actually, it was the year that it was one of the years where they had Jose Theodore in net for the Canadians, and I remember watching this series because my dad's a big Canadians fan, and the Bruins, I think, were the number 1 or 2 seed in the East, and so the Canadians had kind of just snuck into the playoffs, and the Canadians ended up beating them in 6 games, and it's like, what do you? Come on, Boston.
They finally broke through one of those years. I remember
the year they won the cup. They beat the Bruins. They beat the Canadiens in I think 7 games.
Yeah. See, and to me, that's if you're you got to do that to win your cup. You can't get there without going through the Canadiens because then it doesn't mean as much to me. Mm-hmm. Like if the Browns had ever won a Super Bowl in the '80s, I would have wanted to beat Denver to get there.
Because otherwise, if you didn't, you could say, "Oh, well, you only won because you didn't have to play Denver."
Yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes. Zach's team's tied up. The Ottawa Senators have a 1-0 lead over Pittsburgh, and we got a long way to go yet. So with that, we will call it a night. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, and find us on Facebook. And if you want to listen to old shows, you can go to basicallysports.tumblr.com. And with that, we is finished.
Later.
Ducks.
Oh, yeah.
Ducks.
Go Senators.
Go Ducks, go Senators. Let's do the 2007 finals, the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, maybe the Senators can win more than one game this time.
Is that how you guys played when you won the cup?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Kick their ass too.
Okay, anyway, we'll see you next week, folks.
Later.
Later.